Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hi, Amy.
Hey, Tracy.
So that pink wall behind you just makes me want to ask, how has the romancing yourself been going?
You know what? I really kind of like it. It has been going fairly well. There was one day this last week where I intentionally thought about how could I just be like romantic to myself? How could I romance myself? And I thought I should wear a dress for work because I remember you saying that. And then I looked in my closet and I went, no, I don't have a winter dress. So instead I wore an outfit and then with a jacket it's a Ralph Lauren jacket. Was from the Oval Room. Like, this is an anomaly, but I have it, and it's brown with black velvet lapels, and it's fitted, and it's literally looks like a riding jacket. And I put makeup on, and I just felt so put together. And then everyone I saw online, obviously, was like, "You look nice today. Are you interviewing?" No.
That's hilarious.
Just things like that. The food that I made, I don't know, it was just really special. How about you?
I bought flowers for myself, which as much as I talk about it, I hadn't done it in a while just because it's kind of cold out and gray. And so it just makes me smile every time I go in my living room, and which is often because I work from home. And then real big on creating playlists and soundtracks and like, what is the soundtrack of my life today?
I love that.
Yeah, like what's the vibe I want to feel? How am I the main character of my life today? So that when I walk into the grocery store, like I still got that vibe going in my head, right? Like I'm the main character today. So just little small things, like you said, like the food I eat, taking the time to actually just sit and eat my food and not like scroll social media or try and eat and work, all these things we say are romanticizing your life that like 50 years ago, people probably just did. But
That's so funny.
It's kind of, it's seen as a little bit of a treat or a perk to yourself to slow down these days. But it's definitely been good it's like a softening.
It is a softening. It's definitely a softening. I love that word. Today we're talking about something that has to do with softening, but it's a little bit, it goes a little deeper than that. We're talking about surrendering. But I know that for some people, surrender can sound like give up. I'm weak. I've been beaten. I've been defeated. And that's definitely not what we're talking about. We are talking about more of the softening aspect of surrender. And it reminded me that one of the things that I also did this last week is I feel like everyone who listens to this knows that I'm like an essential oil freak, and I love the scents. So the scents really do it for me. And I love to put it in diffusers. So I love the house to smell like that. I love to put it on myself so I smell like that. And then I realized I have an essential oil that's the name of it is Surrender. So I thought, isn't that interesting that we're talking about surrender? And I have an essential. You've seen that. I've got an oil for that. Oh, you need help with surrendering.
What a coinkydink.
Yeah. But so then I thought, let me see what it says about surrendering.
Oh, so what does it say?
Yeah, it's a blend of a lot of different oils. We're not going to go, this is not an essential oils podcast. But what I love is to use it says, the description is calming, relaxing, and balancing to the emotions, making it effective for those with dominant personalities who at times may become unfocused and overbearing. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. So it clears the mind and reduces feelings of stress, and it helps recover equilibrium and calm inner strength. So I don't think anyone thinking about surrender thinks about calm inner strength.
Right. There's kind of, when you think of, the traditional white flag in the air surrendering, there's probably shame, disappointment, fear.
Mm-hmm.
And this is totally different. It reminds me more so on Instagram, we do tarot card pulls, and we featured the Empress this past week with the Romanticize Your Life episode. And to me, the surrendering in this context is more about receiving, right? Receiving without asking, receiving what's given to you,
I
what's in
love
you
that.
you're good, right? Not just, receiving a bad gift, but pausing and opening yourself up to receive, right? And receive with a grateful heart. And without trying to put your meaning on what it should be or where it should take you, right? It's a pause. It's a pause.
It is a pause. I love that. I didn't even think about it in terms of receiving, but you're right. That's exactly what it is. It's not giving up. It's like not even giving over, but maybe opening up.
When I do my manifestations, when I do my new moon intentions, I should say my intentions, I always say, I ask for these things or something better, right? Like, how terrible would your life be if you could only live it within the parameters that you imagined, right? Like, and closed yourself off of from everything you hadn't even known you could dream of, hadn't even been introduced to yet, hadn't even thought possible. And I feel like surrendering is just like an openness.
It is. And I feel like if you surrender to the possibilities, that's exactly what you're talking about. Surrendering to possibilities, that it's things that you haven't even thought of, right? Not even in your awareness. It's also, I love Eckhart Tolle says, he talks about saying yes to the present moment, that surrender to what is. I think we've all heard that statement, surrender to what is. Say yes to life and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. But I love the way you've taken it further. It's not only like, this is my life, but also this is what I'm like. I am open to all the good that could come into my life.
And I feel like that surrender piece that you bring up, though, with this, and why it might feel like the flag in the air and why it might feel scary, is because sometimes rejection is protection, right? And so sometimes you go after that job, that person, that house, and you don't get it. And it feels like a failure. You feel like the world is against you. When if you surrendered to what is, like, this is not right for me, you then open up to what is, right? Whereas if you're trying to force it and make it happen. And what did it say? Not bullheaded, but how do you describe the essential oil? They said it like a dominant personality.
Dominant personality.
Yeah, that overbearing is, sometimes people are like, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. Overbearing is different. Overbearing is control, and surrender is the opposite of control.
Right. And part of that is you surrender to, this is what happened. I didn't get that job. So instead of saying they're stupid, they didn't give me the right questions. That's like fighting against what is. Surrendering to what is saying, okay, I didn't get that job. I am going to think about maybe why I didn't get that job, and then consider how I might move forward in that. So you're open to the possibilities. One thing I'm not talking about with surrendering to what is, like, okay, I didn't get that job. We're not talking about like systemic racism, violence, abuse. You don't have to surrender to what is with those things, right?
Poor treatment of you is not something you ever have to surrender to.
Exactly. And yeah, we're not even talking about just be grateful for what you've got, because maybe what you've got is crap.
Basic respect from the people you interact with is the bare minimum. That is not something that's not a rejection as protection moment. That is they need to learn manners. They need to learn bias. They need to learn a whole lot of things in life.
Yes. Yes. So we're not talking about that. But to go back to your example of you didn't get the job, one of the things about that too, when we were talking about softening before, like if you could say, okay, I didn't get that job, and surrender into that and be soft to yourself and the situation, just think what else you could just be like, okay.
And how much better it will feel to feel your feelings. Right? Like fighting it and being upset just puts on additional emotions that you didn't need in that moment to process it and move on. And sometimes too, like not getting that job, like it just, when you were talking about the example of that and that process, it made me think of, did you ever watch The West Wing and how President Bartlett's saying was always, what's next? So whether somebody was complaining to him, whether something didn't go well or whether something went well and people were bragging, he just always walked in the room and was like, what's next?
Wow.
And so I think like that's a great thing to say to the universe when, especially when things aren't going your way. That's when you need to surrender most, right? Like when things are going really, really well, it's a thank you more, please, right? Like a thank you, yes, more, please. And when things aren't going well, it's a what's next? And not like, oh that. God, universe, now what are you going to give me? No, that's not the attitude. It's a surrender. It's a soften. It's a humbling moment, maybe that you were overbearing. You were forcing a square peg into a round hole kind of a moment, and a chance to step back, recalibrate, and renew.
Yeah. How have you surrendered? Have you surrendered in a situation? Can you think of some place, some time that you've done that?
Yeah, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I really had to come to terms with the decision that past Tracy had made in inaction. And at the time it was out of fear and anxiety, and I kept it to myself. And although it wasn't anything bad, or, I wasn't going to get locked up if anybody found out, I felt a lot of shame around it. And then when you keep that secret to yourself and you don't open it up, then that shame compounds and compounds. And finally, I just started opening up to a few close family and friends about it, and sharing my truth and where I was with it. And I think the most freeing thing beyond like letting people give me support and, their feedback on how they, saw me, which was no different than before they knew this, which was great. Was I just had to realize like past Tracy got me where I am, that she did what she could with what she had, and that was enough, right? Like it wasn't what we wanted in that moment. But if we hadn't done that, who knows where we'd be now? We might be even struggling even worse, right? That had the choices, or the things she was wishing for and wanting for and trying to force and make happen, had that happened, she still may have had her tower moment either way, right? It just would have been a little bit more delayed. You were so soft
with past Tracy.
Not at first, but a couple of years ago I was. Okay. Now I am. Now I'm like, hey, you go, girl. Like, thank you. You gave me my tenacity. You're why I'm so calm in similar situations now. You're why I make, I think what it takes is making, I was a pretty straight edge, follow the rules, by the book, kid, a little bit perfectionist at heart, but definitely like no major mess ups or screw ups, no failures, no C's and D, like none of the things that society kind of teaches you that you're judged on, that you're really not and doesn't actually represent your intelligence or worth or anything. Yeah. So this was definitely a moment where it was a huge failure for me at the time. And so looking back at that now and not wanting to feel that way again motivates me to do the things I don't want to do, or to make the hard choices. Like, I'm enrolled in this MBA program. Do I still want to carry on or not? And if I don't do it, I know what the consequences are. And if I do it, I know what I'm up against and that I can do it. And so, stuff like that, or if I stay at this job I hate versus if I go and get a new job, if I sell everything and move back in with my parents, or if I just really pare down and get like 10 roommates, like there's all these different decisions and things that I can now weigh with experience that Tracy was never allowed to have, because she did not allow herself the tiny failures as a teenager, as early 20, failing, what do they say? Fail fast, fail often, because it's how you get experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, and so I can't speak from that adage, but as somebody who was a perfectionist kid that didn't fail till later in life and took years to recover from that and even share it with people, allow your children to fail, allow them to figure it out. And they'll make better decisions as they get older, I feel like. But
yeah,
that's what I've really surrendered to.
Yeah, I relate to that so much, because I feel like I also didn't, I don't know if I was a perfectionist kid, but boy, I wanted everybody to like me. I was always good in school. I showed up, I did the work, except my senior year when my report card spelled out die. But that was a little blip. And so I was much older when I experienced just like, oh, I wish I could have surrendered to it earlier, but it was probably, gosh, now I'm thinking maybe 10, 15 years ago that I had 2 credit cards and a part-time job. I think I had finally moved into a full-time there and was spending more than I was making, and did not tell my husband that I had the credit cards. It was very much, a merry-go-round, like paying this one, paying that one, just the minimum, and then going out and buying things. And so it was like, I deserve this. I'm a good person. I deserve this. Getting the bill. What's going to happen? I've got to solve this. Why did I grow up with, this? Why did my parents say this to me? Why didn't this happen? So I was blaming other people, expecting a magical thing to happen. I'm going to win the lottery. Someone's going to discover me, and never sharing with anyone what I was going through. So when my husband found out, it of course was horrific, and I still fought against it. I still remember when he said, "I can't believe you did this to us." And I said, "I didn't do it to us. I did it to me. I'm fighting him on this."
So it sounds like surrendering is also taking accountability.
Oh yeah. So it was quite a while. I joined, a Debtors Anonymous, went to meetings, and that's when I went, oh, I get it. Okay. And then I could finally surrender to the fact that I had a problem.
And that stopped the cycle, or at least put a speed bump in.
It put a speed bump in, and it didn't matter how it happened, where it originated from, who I used to think was responsible for it. I was the one who did it. So I surrendered to that. I surrendered to, we live our life a different way now, and it's completely above board. And so I had to surrender to all of that this was something that I did. And
when I think back to how much energy I spent hiding it from myself, and hiding it, making sure I didn't bring it up with others, trying to work around it in life, what that could have been going towards instead, right? Like by the time you actually surrender, then you also have to surrender to the lost time, right? The lost time and energy where I could have done this 5 years ago, but kind of to my point where you have to give credit to past you. Maybe you couldn't have, right? So that's also part of the surrendering, is accepting like, but I'm here now, right? Like you have to do what you can with what you have.
Thank you for that. Yes. Yes. That is part of the surrendering, is not continually beating up past Amy, past Tracy.
One of the things I noticed about both of our experiences, which thank you for sharing, is this aspect of others, likability, and shame. And like, those are 3 things you could just surrender in and of themselves, right? Like Brene Brown has a career on at least one of those.
The shame. Oh my gosh. Well, and frankly, being raised Catholic, like we've got the cornerstone on shame and guilt. So, so that in and of itself is also like, no, that'll do. That'll do.
And even when you overcome your own shame, when you start to talk about these things and other people haven't come to terms with it themselves, you now are faced with their shame or their projection of their own shame.
You are 100% right.
So I think surrendering, you say this all the time, but to that, other people's opinion of you is not your business, right? Mm-hmm. Where other people's are versus where you are doesn't matter, right? That's their experience. This is your experience.
It's very easy to say these things and it's a whole nother ball of wax to actually live it. But the more I feel like you do remind yourself of these things, the more you integrate that.
Yeah. I mean, 4 years ago, I know I'm being a little intentionally vague about my stuff, but 4 years ago, I couldn't even tell my bestest friend. I couldn't even journal it. I couldn't even say it out loud that, and it wasn't a terrible bad thing, but to me, it was a terrible bad thing.
Yep.
I had put the label on it, nobody else. And now I'm talking about it on a podcast. Like, what? And just like back at past Tracy, like, oh God, you were so upset. Like so upset all the time. This is a really big deal for you when in the silence, in those quiet moments before bed. And then now you're just like, whatever.
Learn from it. So I feel like, you can surrender, like what you're talking about, shame, control, guilt, what other people think of you, your perceived outcomes. I feel like you said that brilliantly in the beginning. Like, just think, when you ask the universe this or something better, you're not saying, I want, a 3-story house, 2-car garage,
oh my God. If the universe would have given me the boy I had a crush on that I worked with at Blockbuster 20 years ago, I would be so anti-universe right now. I would have a podcast called The Universe Screwed Me Over and Here's How. Like, I am so thankful the universe broke my heart. And it was nothing more than a schoolgirl crush 2 decades later. But at the time, oh my God, it was destined. It was preordained. And now I'm like, oh, honey, no.
Yeah. Surrender your disappointments, everyone. Just surrender that.
Oh, I love that. Surrender your disappointments. And what an easy thing to let go of, right? To be like, you know what? Yes, take it. Here's the flag. Just take this from me. That's your bounty.
That's your bounty. I love it.
What do you get back in the day or in some cultures still when like you marry someone and the woman comes that thing?
Oh my gosh. I read about it all the time because I'm always reading Regency romances and now I can't think of what it's called.
Well, whatever it is, that's my gift to the universe. Like, here, you can take all my disappointments, all my shame. I am now wed to you and what you want me to do.
I love it.
We have people screaming at their radios or their phones right now at whatever it is that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to bug me.
That's a good way to just scream it out into the universe.
Give it to the ether, man.
I think one of the
a dowry. I heard your screams in the past. I thank you for them.
Dowry.
Give a dowry of disappointments.
I like it. I think that's a new thing. We need to have a dowry of disappointments and give it to people.
That's now what we burn on the full moon when we release our dowry of disappointments.
All right, everyone, we're down with this. We're taking it and running with it.
So in addition to just burning things, what are some other ways to surrender? I feel like fire is always my first go-to to people. Release it, burn it, just set it on fire and run away.
I feel like last year, whenever we did an episode on like the Wheel of the Year, I was like, how to celebrate? Well, burn stuff.
Start a fire and you dance around it. Totally optional.
But I love anyone who's ever done improv. One of the key elements is yes and. And I feel like that encapsulates a way to surrender.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this is the situation. And this is how I could move through it, or this is what I could do with it. So it's you're surrendering to what is. Yes, this is it. And now what can I do with it? how could you make it better? Like what you said with the West Wing, what's next, right? What's next? Then, there's a term, I always call myself happiness warrior, but there is a term, the happy warrior. And so with that, I feel instead of fighting against something, you work towards something. So you don't fight hunger, you work toward sustainable farming.
That's kind of, you've brought up in the past, the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset, right?
Yeah.
So like hunger exists. It's an impulse in all of us. We need food. Stop fighting hunger and instead have that more solution minded, solution mindset. And work towards something to just overcome the hunger.
Yeah, agreed. I also think that when we're fighting against life, against what it is, we're all up in our head, right? We're just like, this isn't right. What's happening? I don't like blah, blah, blah. And so just like get out of your head, fall into your heart.
I fought my thing so hard that not only did I fail at the thing I was trying so hard not to fail at, but I lost my apartment. I lost my job. I had to move back home. My car broke down and I needed a new car and I had to completely restart my life. And at the time, hardest thing in the world to do at 28 years old. Now in hindsight, that was my Saturn return. And it happened because I was not paying attention to the fact that I didn't want that for a job. I didn't want to go to school for that. I didn't want that car. I didn't want that apartment. I was just trying to force all these things into this life thought I should have. And so the universe just pulled the rug out from under me to get my attention because nothing else worked. And when every single thing in your life is a struggle, it's gonna seem like the opposite of what you should do, but just surrender to the struggle. Like just pay attention. Why is this a struggle? Because the struggle is your message, whether you believe in the universe or otherwise. When life does have hard moments here or there. And when you surrender to the struggle, you can kind of get that peace of mind and get like that tenacity back to just grit your teeth and bear it and get through it. Because there are hard moments in life. But when everything in life is a struggle and you surrender, you start to see what you don't like, that your relationship is actually crap, that your person gives you the ick. They make you feel bad about yourself. You're not happy with your job. You're not happy with how you spend your time. And when you surrender to that struggle, you get the message you need. You get that clarity because you're not investing all your energy into the fight, right? Like the true fight is in the struggle. It's not in the surrender.
Yes, exactly. And I'm also going to go just a step further into that. When you surrender to the struggle and you're looking at the shoulds, if your shoulds are other people's shoulds toward you, that's why it's such a struggle.
My shoulds were shoulds because I didn't have my own shoulds. It wasn't anybody putting it onto myself. I was just picking them up off the ground. I didn't have anything in mind to really go passionately towards.
So who should get rid of the shoulds?
Get rid of the shoulds. And I get it. Like living your passion, sometimes it takes the passion out of it, right? Like it's, sometimes that do what you love thing doesn't always apply to everything, but that doesn't mean necessarily you should be doing what you hate and what you're struggling at either.
That's right. I think that, fighting against your life or fighting with your life, it doesn't allow for those breakthroughs. Like you said, when you just surrender to the struggle, then you can look and see, you soften into your life, and then you can actually consider the possibilities.
Oh, yes. You soften into possibility, right? Like it's not softening into the unknown. It's softening into possibility. There's so much more than what you're already doing.
I love that, Tracy. I love that so much.
If you guys listening loved this, please share it with a friend, please. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. But you can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day full of possibilities.